Welcome to Town Talk, the official podcast of Summerville, South Carolina, where we bring you the latest news, events, and interviews with the people who make our town special. I'm Chris Makowski, the town's public information officer, and your host of Town Talk. In today's episode, we're delighted to have Councilwoman Garten-Schmidt join us. Councilwoman Garten-Schmidt has been an active member of the Summerville community and has been involved in various local initiatives. We're excited to learn more about her work and her plans for the town. Welcome to the show, Councilwoman. How are you doing today?
Great.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited to get to know more about you and what led you here to the town of Summerville. And I think that's a good place to start. Do you mind providing us a little bit more about your past, what brought you to the town of Summerville, and then also what brought you to become Councilwoman?
Well, first of all, my husband and I moved here in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
We moved directly from Germany because he's in the Air Force, and we were stationed over there for about 5 years.
Okay.
So we've been here roughly about 25, 26 years now. And we raised 3 sons, all went to Summerville High School right here in town. And over the years, I used to be employee of the government when I used to live in California for several years. And of course, over the years, I've been involved in several different things, you know, church activities and my kids' school activities, belonged to PTA for several years. And right when I was getting ready to step out of PTA, I just thought, you know, why not run for council here in town? We love this town so much, we decided to make it our home. And, you know, I looked around me in our community and even the district that I live in, and I said, you know, I want to make a difference. I want to see how I can help the town and the citizens.
I love that. And, you know, you talk about a little bit of your past, and you've been all over the place. You said you lived in Germany. What was that like?
Oh, it was wonderful living there. You know, I got to travel all over Europe, but it's a different way of life. People think a little bit differently over there.
Yeah.
And so when coming back to the United States, it was sort of a big culture shock just coming here. And different things like having a garbage disposal in your kitchen sink. We didn't have that over in Germany. Or, you know, not having to go out and sweep your sidewalk on a Saturday because it's required by law over there. We didn't have to do that here anymore.
Wow.
But you know, the people there, they care very much about their community and what it looks like. And they're very, you know, they look at, you know, keeping things clean. For the most part, there's no litter, you know? And so a lot of these type of things I would like to roll into our community. I mean, one of the things I want to talk on a little bit later is beautification of Summerville.
Yeah. And that's really cool how I never left the United States, and I sure hope I do at some point very soon. I want to explore, you know, different cultures and everything like that. But it's so cool how you went to that culture, saw how the way of life there, and thought, how can that you know, work over here in one, the United States, but two, here in the town of Summerville. And so, you know, that's really intriguing. And so to circle back a little bit, you talked about how your wants and needs to really make a difference here in the community is what led you to become, you know, councilwoman. Can you talk a little bit more about that process and about running and what that was like?
You mean running for council, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the first time I ran for council, I didn't know what I was doing. Like most of your just general run-of-the-mill citizens out there, right?
Yeah.
But I soon learned, you know, there's a way of doing it, and I decided I'm going to go and I'm going to walk the neighborhoods and I'm going to knock on every door.
I love it.
And, you know, sometimes you come across some very aggressive people or aggressive dogs. Lots of people have dogs, I realize that. But you come across a lot of really interesting people, and I think that that's what I like most about campaigning is meeting people and getting to know them and creating that relationship from the bottom. And I think that's the way you get the trust of the people.
Yeah.
And when they go ahead and elect you, you want to carry that on. throughout your time on council, that they can trust you. They can
Yeah.
come to you with any question. They can come to you with any need. And, you know, I get numerous phone calls, emails, texts from my people that live in my community, and, you know, saying, hey, Kima, what about this? What was this all about last night at the meeting? Can you explain it a little bit further about what you voted on? And I think this is a great process of getting people to know what's really happening in our community and how government works, you know, here in the town.
Yeah, and it's really encouraging all it takes is caring and wanting better for the community to get you into a position like you, and that's all it took. That was that initial, like, I just want our community to be better, and your wants and your desire to put the work in to help our community is what led you to the role. And it's encouraging that you have that open communication with the community and helping them better understand, because government is an animal. It's an animal to understand the terminology and the things we talk about. And you know, that's a reason we brought this podcast to fruition, is to just make it a little bit more personal and build that so the community can understand a little bit more about our council members, but also our staff and everyone else. You've been, how long have you been a council member now?
I'm going to say about 13 years.
Okay.
Right,
Okay.
13.
So, in the past 13 years, what are some of your biggest accomplishments that you're very proud of?
Well, I think the biggest one that from the very beginning was getting smoking taken out of our restaurants here in town. You know, there's a lot of people, especially when you're raising kids, when you go into a restaurant or place, you want to enjoy your time there. And for most non-smokers, well, but even some smokers themselves, that they're not smoking in the restaurant, but you want the best for your children. I walk away sometimes when I pass a person that's smoking, for instance, and I immediately start coughing, because it's a foreign thing going into my body and I can't breathe very well. Anyway, so going back to the restaurants, I just felt like I wanted to be able to take my kids into a restaurant without worrying about the smoke. I mean, it's not that I'm against smokers. You know, I have lots of friends that smoke. It's just I feel that in certain places in the town, we shouldn't have smoking.
No, that's I think that's understandable. And the second thing is really, and over the years, it's become kind of the norm. Is, you know, in restaurants and stuff, you don't really see smoking like you did in the early 2000s.
Right.
And it's kind of switched. So that is encouraging. Now you say you were at your 13th year. What are some initiatives that you're currently working on, or something that you're just looking forward to, you know, moving forward?
Well, I think some of the biggest things is we've just recently acquired some property. I think the mayor talked to you about that
Yes.
with your podcast with him. And so we're looking to build a new police station. And so, of course, we need enough space for that. And we also want to move our court from the old town hall here and have its own place that's separate from the town area. So that's really exciting. We're starting to have those conversations of what we're going to put on this new property if it's one of these places. So that's real exciting, because our police department they've overgrown their area. For years they've overgrown their area, and it's time that we give them something a little bit better, so they'll be more adequately prepared in their offices and have the space that they need.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we talk about the police department when our community has been growing so rapidly, and with that growth, obviously, it's going to come the growth of our police department and town staff and the municipality as a whole. You've been here for 13 years, and you've seen a lot of change, and a lot of change has happened. What are some challenges that you have faced, but also what are some challenges that you can maybe see coming up in the future?
Well, some of the challenges have been whenever our council changes, we get a new mayor or we get new council members, you need to get to know these people because you always want to work well together and you want to have like-mindedness. So sometimes there's been some challenges with that. Other times it's been very smooth and it's exciting when other council members see the same thing that you do and you want to work together. It's all about collaboration and working together for the better of our town.
Yeah, and I think it's always interesting. It's like when you start a new job or you go to you move into a new city or a new town, you have to meet new people and build those relationships. And it's the same thing when someone new gets voted in, and you have to kind of restart that relationship building. And it's encouraging to hear that that is a priority. You know, Summerville has, like I explained, and I know in the previous episode, Chief Wright talked about some of the issues that Summerville is facing from a police department perspective. One of them that he talked about was traffic. In your opinion, what are some of the most pressing issues that Summerville is facing currently at this moment?
So I have to repeat what he said.
Yeah.
Traffic.
Yeah, no, I think that's a common...
I think that is the number one issue. Now, of course, as you know, and most of our citizens know, we are taking course on that. We're just beginning, I guess you'd say, the second, third phase of the completion of the Maple Street.
Yep.
So that is going to help a lot with the traffic getting through. People won't have to get off at 199. They won't have to go down Main Street to get to the other side of town. Depending on where you're living, Maple Street is going to help out the residents that live on that part of town. It's going to be great. And then, of course, the Berlin G. Myers finally coming to light. And so that, I know a lot of people were against that. And I can understand some of the reasons why. But after really talking to some of the people that work on this project and getting the larger grasp of what they're doing, I can really see how this is going to help tremendously. I live right off of Bacon's Bridge, but the people that live behind me in Newington, they're going to benefit very greatly because they're going to be able to get off at Loudon and come right into the neighborhood versus coming all the way down Carolina, coming to Bacon's Bridge, going through
a workaround.
Yes, exactly. So it's going to help them to get in and out of their neighborhoods. And there's other neighborhoods along the Berlin G. Myers that they're going to be able to do the same. I was actually invited by the people that are working on this project, me and a couple other council members just recently, to drive along the Sawmill Branch and see actually all the work, what they're doing. And it was just very, very interesting. Because I am not an engineer. I don't even know all that terminology. But to see these bridges that they're building, I think there's something like 6 or 7 bridges actually being built. And instead of starting one bridge and completing it, they're actually building all the ones at the same time, and they're just building upon them at different intervals. And they're actually almost done with one bridge completely. Very good to know. And they actually are a little ahead of schedule.
That's also good to know.
Yes. They're thinking sometime between 2.5 to 3 years that everything will be complete. And this is exciting. I know you can... It seems like a long ways off, but it will go fast. And also as a council member, I've been working very closely with them and with the neighborhoods and some of the problems that they've had along the way, but usually we can get that taken care of right away. Again, why it's so important to keep your communication open with your citizens so they feel that they can contact you when they have a problem with something. And then on the other hand, me being able to have a conversation with someone like the DOT or someone banks construction or whoever in order to get the answers that I need to go back to my citizens with.
Yeah, and the town is, and I think this has been talked about in every episode, and I think it'll continue to be talked about, is the town's growing, right?
Yeah.
There's people moving here. It's a beautiful town. There's a lot to do here, and it's, you're not in the hustle and bustle of the downtown Charleston. So you get that small town feel up here in Summerville. But with the attraction comes people who want to live here, move here, and live in the apartments and homes and everything like that. And I think traffic will continue to be a topic of conversation. And it's good to hear that there's movement there. But I'm sure, and what I've heard is council is continuing to look at that and what's next. What's that future look like? Because it's not going to stop tomorrow,
right.
And so it's encouraging that you're listening to the concerns, but also, the council's taking action as well. Speaking of council as a whole, how from your perspective, how do you work best with Mayor Waring and the rest of the council to get something done? How does that process go? I'm just genuinely curious.
Well, open communication is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And most all of our council members, I mean, they're wonderful to talk to and be open and honest with when there's an issue. But for instance, I was going to talk about it, but this is a great time to bring it up. So we used to have a beautification committee.
Okay.
Back when we had another mayor here, and they did a great job in what they did, but after about 2 or 3 years, either they just didn't have the interest of people being on their committee, and it kind of fizzled out.
Okay.
And I would love to see something like that start back up. And so what I'm going to be doing, probably after this interview, I was going to talk to the mayor today to see what is his thinking about starting something back up. Is it possible at this point, or do we need to wait a little bit? What does the rest of council feel about this? Some of the things the beautification committee did, you think they just make everything pretty, but actually this group, they would go out every 2 months, and they got a whole group, like on a Saturday, they would go right into one community, and they did pickup of litter, and they would spend a good 3
That's amazing.
hours. 3 hours out there. I went with them several times, and we would pick up litter of all sorts. And then some of the people that lived there would see what we were doing. They'd come out to see what it was all about, and then all of a sudden they'd start joining us, which is great. That's great because you've got more people caring about their community. What does their neighborhood look like? And when you've got little kids out there helping clean up, then that instills in them a value that later on they will look at, and instead of throwing that gum wrapper down on the floor or a soda bottle or something, they'll think, oh, I'm going to look for a trash can.
Yep.
And so you have to start at a young age. So I'm going to have some talks, with the mayor and with other council members to see what their input is as starting this committee back up, and see if there's any interest. We'll advertise to the community if we do have interest for council, and see how many people would like to join and be in this group.
Yeah, that's awesome. And one thing, and I guess I'm not a psychologist or anything like that, but when you see folks in your community outside cleaning and picking things up and doing things, subconsciously you're like, I feel comfortable going out and helping. If you have nothing going on a Saturday, you're sitting in and you look out your window and you see folks, picking up some litter and stuff, and you're bored, I think it's easier to just put, some tennis shoes on and going out and helping. And it's cool to hear that was the case. And I see that being the case. And, one thing is you talked about the children and seeing the impact that could have on making the environment, and cleaning up. And I will definitely be following that, and I'm interested to see where that goes. And, I appreciate your willingness to to look into that and bringing that back possibly. And we talked about, that's kind of a future plan and a vision for you. Is there, future plans and visions that you may have as a council member, or just as for the town of Summerville as a whole?
Well, I'd like to continue working with the rest of the council in the different things that we would like to provide for our citizens and for their quality of life here in Summerville. Example, Parks and Rec. We just recently talked about how we'd like to expand. We would like some more tennis courts. We would like some more pickleball courts. We would like a splash pad, for the kids. Well, you never know, you might see me out there too. But we would like to have these things for our citizens. So I think we need some more talking to go forward, find the different areas in town that we can put more tennis courts and pickleball courts. So this is something that I'd like to see. I'd like to continue to work with Dream and just the different events that they plan for our town, which is absolutely wonderful. Talk about quality of life. Anytime you can come down here on a weekend or a third Thursday, and Dream has done a great job at planning these events, and there's so many people. We're bringing people from outside of Summerville to these events now. And they're wonderful. You can walk down the street, it's closed off. Little Maine is closed off for pedestrians only, and they have different booths set up. People selling things, or just advertising a nonprofit, or things like that. Accent and Wine has usually their little wine out there that you can buy wine from them, and the popcorn people were out there selling their wonderful popcorn, and just a place to meet with your friends.
Yeah.
Here in town, and you run into people and say, hey, I haven't seen you in a couple weeks, what's up, and talk. And I mean, this is a great thing for our town to come together. And again, like I say, quality of life, people sharing with each other, being a community in a smaller town. I dare to say smaller town anymore because we've grown so much, but yet you get that small town feeling when you go out there.
Exactly.
And that's really important.
We are growing, but it still has that small town feel, and that's what makes it so unique out here in Summerville, and why I love it. I think anyone out here that lives here loves it. You talked about Dream. For our listeners, do you mind just talking a little bit more about Dream, who they are, for anyone who doesn't know who Dream is?
Okay, well, Dream has been around actually for quite a while, longer than I've been here, so I know probably a good 30 years. They help the different businesses downtown actually advertise for themselves. In a way, we have these events to bring people down here so they'll go into our restaurants, they'll go into our businesses and spend their dollars, but also make it, like I say, just an event that people really enjoy wanting to come to spend time with other people or with their families. They do so many different things for our community. I just can't even thank them enough for what they do. We have the Christmas parade each year. They're the ones that do all the planning of that, which is a great big undertaking. I think they've got it down to a science of everything that they do now, but it's great. And then, of course, they do the third Thursdays, and now we do the Sweet Tea Festival, which came about just only really about 10 years ago. Because we are the birthplace of sweet tea.
Yes.
And so, of course, we need to tell the world about that.
Yeah,
so.
Of course.
And that whole week now that they've planned, it used to be one day. Now they've made it into a week. So there's different events happening each day during that week, which is great. We have, in the fall time and around Halloween, they'll have events like the scarecrows in the square.
Yes,
correct. And then they also have, I think, like ghost walks and around the town, and then they'll tell you some history about our town, which is great. So they just do all kinds of events, and they work very closely with our business owners also to find out what is lacking for them as a business owner, and how can they draw more people in. Of course, the event that just happened, the Flowertown Festival, that is run by the YMCA, but also, Dream can piggyback on that, because we also do continue to have events right here in the town during that time. So it's a win-win situation for our entire time. Dream has just done a fantastic job.
They sound like they'd be a good guest on this podcast in the future. So I might have to do some work on bringing Dream on for an episode. And you talked about the scarecrows. I took my daughter there this past Halloween season to see the scarecrows, and she was, she was 8-9 months, and so she really didn't know what she was looking at, but she loved it. She loved it, and it, walking through that, it was cool just to see the creativity.
Oh yeah.
And it was popular. There was a ton of people walking around and looking at it. So it's really cool, and it brings people to the community and to our town to see, why Summerville is so special. Yeah. And then it helps our businesses here too. It definitely encourages me to bring them on for an episode.
Oh,
yes. You talked about, getting the community involved and building trust with anyone who talks, reaches out to you, and building those relationships. And from your perspective, what do you think the town can do to better enhance our community engagement?
Well, I think what we're doing here, Chris, is like one of the number one things right now with this podcast that you have started here in Summerville. I think this is a great way for our community to know what's happening in town, and then questions that they have, or something that one of us have mentioned, they can call Town Hall and find out more information on it, or contact whoever maybe we mentioned, sort of like Dream. They can talk to Dream. One of the ways our community can get involved is our citizen committees.
Yep.
That we have. So there's different times. It's usually advertised online and in the paper. When we have openings for different committees, people can submit their applications. On top of that, there's just so many different nonprofits here in town that people can get involved with. I mean, we've got the Flowertown Players, we've got the Somerville Dorchester Museum.
Yep.
We have Dream, we have the Arc here in town, we have Beyond Basic, we have the Rotary, we have Dorchester Seniors. We have so many different ways to get involved. Another way is just getting involved with your chamber. If you are a business owner, getting involved with the chamber, joining the Leadership Dorchester group. That's almost a year program for someone to get involved with. But you learn so much about our community and other ways of being involved by doing these things.
Yeah, and I'll be sure when we release this podcast to include all their websites in the bio. That way, anyone listening can dig in for more information. But you're 100% correct, and that's one of the reasons I started this podcast, and why it's gaining its traction, is because we're having these conversations, and we do mention a certain, we'll just use Dream for example, because I think that was our most recent mention, and now the community, whoever's listening, can knows a little bit more about them, but they now know the name. They now know where they can reach them, and so that's what's powerful about having just these conversations and publishing it to the community, is so they can see a little bit more behind the camera of our live stream of you being behind the desk, right? And so they know a little bit more about you and what brought you here as a councilwoman. So yeah, I definitely agree, and getting involved, like you said, joining the different groups is always going to be encouraged. And like the mayor said in our first episode, is coming to our meetings, being there
Yes.
or live streaming is important.
Right.
If you want to get involved, just come. We encourage it. We promote it. We do everything we can, and we definitely have folks who come but we encourage everyone to come. And so if anyone who's listening has any questions on how to get involved and to further understand different ways to get involved, I'm sure any one of the council members would be happy to help you with that. But you could also reach town staff, me including, and I'm happy to direct you in the direction to get involved. That said, to bring this, to wrap this podcast episode up, is there anything else for the sake of the conversation that you would like to share with our listeners today?
I am most recently become a grandmother.
No way. Congratulations.
Thanks. So she's almost 6 months old now.
Oh.
Her name is Ember, and I get to watch her a couple days a week. And I think right now that's the most exciting thing. It has nothing to do with council or town.
No, but that's what makes it fun. How sweet.
But I'm so proud to be a grandmother.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to see her grow and become our little mascot here.
Yeah, hey, who knows? Maybe someday we'll have a Miss Sweet Tea, and she could be our first Miss Sweet Tea, a 6-month-old.
We talked vision. There you go, Miss Sweet Tea.
Yeah.
No, I
Dream,
like
are
that.
you listening?
No, but thank you so much, Councilwoman, for your time today and for joining the podcast. And I really look forward to continuing to work with you to better enhance our community engagement, to better enhance the town as a whole. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you joining today.
Thanks. I really enjoy being here, Chris, and I think you're doing an absolutely wonderful job of having this podcast for our citizens. Just wonderful.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.